Hey Gabe.
How's it going, Stefan?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
You know, I'm doing quite all right. I kind of like this whole whittling thing.
Yeah, this whittling thing is pretty fun. I'm trying to make a pointy stick. How about you?
I think I'm making a pointy stick myself.
Oh, those are always fun to make.
Oh, always.
So Gabe,
Yeah.
It's been a while since I got my toe and shit. Do you want to review some important things we always do when we're whittling and using pocket knives?
Yeah, certainly, Stefan. You know, one thing I always love to do is when I start to make small talk like this, I always make sure to close my knife when I'm not using it. It's always important to just, you know, just close it, have it in your hand, have it nearby, make sure nobody's fidgeting with it. But yeah, just close my knife before I start doing something else.
That's really smart. That's a nice preventative measure.
Yeah.
One thing that I like to do is I always like to keep my knife nice and sharp, so it never gets blunt, it never gets rusty. It's good for knife maintenance and keeping it lasting for a really long time.
That sounds cool. I mean, let me see your knife. How sharp is that thing?
That's pretty sharp.
That is pretty sharp.
Look at it.
Whew. That's pretty sharp, Stefan.
But
well, one thing is, I saw you started whittling there. One thing to make sure you always do, and I always make sure to do, is to never cut towards myself. Always make sure it's long strokes away, and make sure nobody else is in my blood circle. So before I start whittling, I'll take the knife and do a small circle all the way around me. Make sure nobody's close enough.
That's really smart. You know, same thing, I always like to close my knife every time I get up and I'm walking around, or if I'm gonna walk over to a table or grab a different stick, I always make sure to close my knife and just don't want to fall and you know, get any cuts or anything like that.
You know, you bring up an interesting point. When I don't use my knife and I have to set it down somewhere, I always make sure it's closed. It's never safe to leave an open blade out.
Yeah, and you know, something that I always make sure to do is I always make sure that I keep my knife in my hand. I never throw my knife. It's not a plaything. A knife is a tool, and you want to respect it and be safe around it.
I agree. What this caution tape's for, man?
Whoa, Gabe, stop!
What's going on?
This is an active axe yard. You have to ask permission before you enter.
Who do I ask?
You have to ask the person inside the axe yard.
Well, I see you're the only one in there. May I enter, Stefan?
Permission granted to enter.
All right.
But now that you're in, you have to wear some eye protection.
Eye protection. You got some for me?
Lucky for you, I have an extra pair right here for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. I'm scared. Oh.
So Gabe, welcome to the axe yard.
Thank you.
So as you can tell, we're right here. We have the entire axe yard sectioned off with some caution tape so no one accidentally walks in. As you saw when you were coming in, you have to ask permission before you enter.
I have to ask permission.
Because we want to make sure that everyone who's in here should be in here. There shouldn't be anyone in here who's not doing some active work or isn't you know, part of the axe yard. We want to make sure everyone's safe.
Okay.
And it's also important that we have appropriate adult supervision. So we want to make sure that if anything does go wrong, that, you know, there's someone responsible who knows what to do.
Okay. Sounds reasonable to me.
All right, so now let's start talking about some of this equipment.
All right, let's see.
All right, Gabe, the first tool we're gonna look at is this camp saw. So as you can see right here, we have a nice camp saw that we have right here with the other tools. Now it's always important to remember, Gabe, that this is no plaything. This is a tool, and it is very dangerous when used improperly. So do you see these right here? Do you know what these are called?
I don't know. The blades?
Yeah, this is the blade of the saw, but these right here are the teeth. Okay. They're the sharp part of the saw, so we want to make sure not to touch them. You have to treat it with respect because it's very sharp and it could hurt somebody. And so when you're using it, when someone else is using it, when you're passing it along, always treat it with respect.
Treat it with respect. Got it.
All right, so now let's prepare to cut something. So it's important to use the right tool for what you're using, for what you're trying to accomplish. And usually a saw will work great for most things. The saw will actually cut things faster than an axe, depending on what you're cutting. And so right here we have a nice log that will cut using our saw. So one thing we're going to do as we're cut is we want to make sure that the saw does not end up in the ground. That's going to be bad for it, and it's going to get dull and rusty and whatever. So we're going to keep it out of the ground, and we're going to cut away from ourselves with the blade away from our bodies. Okay. When we cut, we're gonna let the blade do all the work. So we're just gonna be moving back and forth and let the blade do the work for us. All right. So when we cut, we're gonna get a nice firm stance. So here I am down on my knees. I'm not gonna stand up. I'm not, trying to do it on the ceiling or anything like that. So, so I got my knees down, and we're gonna grab our log firmly. We wanna make sure it's not wiggling around. We wanna make sure it's secure. And now that we have our log secure, I have my saw. I'm gonna start cutting. So I'm just gonna be very gentle here. And just start cutting.
I see it's already cutting pretty fast.
Yeah, it is, and I'm just moving my hand back and forth.
Back and
not
forth.
pushing
Okay.
at all. And it's that simple. Do you have any questions, Gabe?
Well, what if there was somebody, like let's say I was a bit closer, there's other people in here. What would you have to do before cutting?
We'd have to ask them to step away. You can't cut when there's other people around you.
Okay. How much space should I get? Should they move away from?
Well, you want to ensure what we call a blood circle. And so what that basically means is we take the length of our saw and we take the length of our arms and we spin it around in a circle to see, and if anyone is inside that circle, we call it, they're in our blood circle.
The blood
so that means
circle,
they're too close to us. So for instance, right now, if I hold this out, you are outside of my blood circle right now, so you're safe.
Okay, sounds good.
But if someone was inside your blood circle, you have to tell them to step back.
Step back, okay.
Any other questions?
I think that's about it.
All right, well then let's move on to another tool.
Sounds good.
You're watching Camping Continues. We'll be right back after a word from today's sponsor.
Hi, I'm Charlie Brown, and we're back here at Camp William B. Snyder with Camping Continues. You'll look over here, and this is the wetlands, part of the area that's been saved as part of scouting. They have some great nature trails, and you'll see all the different things out here. Heck, just the other day, I saw the bald eagle over top of Carol's Cottage. You can enjoy all this and more June 5th at Trails Day here at Camp William B. Snyder. Make sure you invite your friends and family who aren't a part of scouting yet, so they can be a part of the Cub Scout relaunch.
Welcome back. Let's get back into the action with Camping Continues.
Hey everyone, we're here in the axe yard to talk about knife safety. I'm Patrick.
I'm Ethan.
And we're going to share some important information with you. This right here is a pocket knife. This is a tool, not a toy, so we never play with it. And right now, Ethan is going to explain some of the things that we do to make sure that we stay safe while using a pocket knife.
Thank you. First things, you'll notice how I accepted the knife. I said, thank you. That serves two things. It is me being polite, and it also tells Patrick that I have the knife and I'm not going to drop it when he lets go. After all, a knife is a very dangerous object if not used properly, and we do not want to drop this. Next, you can open your knife. However, first you need to check to make sure no one is around you. You do this with what we call a safety circle. You hold your knife in your hand and you reach all the way around you, covering all 360 degrees. With no one in your safety circle, it is now safe to open your knife. You can see we have the blade and point, which is the sharp parts, and the handles, which you can hold. You're going to take this, you're going to hold it by the handle, and you're always going to want to cut away from you to do whatever you need to cut or carve or whittle down. Once you're done with your knife, you're not going to leave it open and lying around, especially open. You're going to want to make sure you close it. Almost all pocket knives will have a form of lock. This one, you push down here. And you're going to make sure your hands and fingers are out of the way, so when you close it, it does not snap down and hurt you.
Thank you. Also, for a safety circle, make sure that if two people's safety circles cross each other, then you both need to move apart. There are different types of knives. Right there is just a standard pocket knife. One blade, one handle, that's it. Right here, I have a multi-tool with multiple different tools on it, including a knife. The same rules apply for this that apply for my pocket knife. I still need to be careful and use a safety circle and make sure that I am using it properly. And now, Ryan will be sharing the Pocketknife Pledge.
The Pocketknife Pledge is a pledge that you are going to have to sign in order to take your pocketknife with you to Cub Scout functions. It goes as following. In return for the privilege of carrying a pocketknife to designated Cub Scout functions, I agree to the following. I will treat my pocketknife with the respect due a useful tool. I will always close my pocketknife and put it away when not in use. I will not use my pocketknife when it might injure someone near me. I promise never to throw my pocketknife for any reason. I will use my pocketknife in a safe manner at all times. Once you agree to that and complete all the other requirements of your whittling trip, you will be allowed to carry your pocketknife with you to Cub Scout events.
Despite all of these safety procedures, it is still possible to cut yourself accidentally. When this happens,
make sure to go find your Cub Master, your den leader, or a trusted adult, and they will help you administer first aid.
Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of Camping Around the Council. We begin this time with an athletic race, much like our own journey we'll enjoy later on and Camping Continues. In 1913, athletes from around the world convened in Chicago, Illinois for an athletic carnival. The Scouts played an important role in kicking off these games. A plan was devised for Scouts to deliver a message from Washington, D.C. to Chicago, Illinois. What a trip indeed! This took quite a bit of planning, and many Scouts from many councils had a chance to be a part of this historic and important effort to bring our country together. Event organizers desired the best Scouts to be the runners. Fred Reed of Washington, D.C. was deemed the most proficient Scout at the time and was runner number 1 for the race. He had 11 merit badges, was an expert firemaker, was a first-class Scout. Unfortunately, Fred would not go on to become an Eagle Scout, which was so rare back in those days. Here are the images from the start of the relay race, Tuesday, June 24th, 1913. President Wilson provided a message to be relayed to Chicago Mayor Harrison. Scouts were driven to their starting points along the route and ran their leg of the race. Fred Reed handed one of these messages to Scout Rodney Dent, and the rest, of course, is what we say around Camping on the Council is history. By Sunday, June 29th, 1913, the message had been received all the way in the distant Midwest of Chicago, Illinois. Scout LaRon Chenworth delivered the message to Mr. Mayor Harrison. Every Scout ran a leg of that relay race was recognized with a pen described in the June 29th edition of the Washington Times. They were collar-worn and were really an example for everything to see. The 1913 relay race internationally is just one of the countless ways that Scouting has served the community since its founding. Since that very inception, future episodes we will explore more ways that our movement of Scouting has continued to shape the entire world. Thank you for joining us for another exciting episode around Camping Around the Council, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Good night.
All right, Gabe, the next tool we're going to look at is our axe. So this right here is the axe that we'll be using. Okay. Before we get started, let's take a look at the anatomy of it.
Okay.
So, do you want to take a guess of the 2 main parts that people need to worry about on an axe are?
I would say the blade and the handle.
Exactly. The head and then the handle. That's the most important thing for you to remember. A little bit more anatomy. This is the top of the blade is called the toe, and the bottom of the blade is called the heel.
The heel, okay.
This is called the knob at the very end, so it's very important to remember it when we're actually going to use it. So one thing you want to do is you want to point the blade away from yourself at all times.
Okay.
You don't want to, fall into it or have it knock over, so keep that pointed away from yourself. When we carry it, you want to use 2 hands as much as possible, just to secure it and make sure it's nice and secure. When we actually are cutting, what we'll do is you're not actually putting a lot of force into it. You're not, you know, pushing it or anything like that. You're letting the hammer use its own force and then let it do the work for you once again. So when we're cutting, we'll just let it fall by itself, all right? So in order to practice proper technique, I have right here some wood that we can chop. So what we'll do is get a nice stance. That's important. So here I have a nice stance. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, you know, pick out where I'm gonna aim. I'm gonna do a nice V-shaped pattern. I'm gonna do 2 on one side, then 2 on the other. I'm gonna come in like that. So I wanna measure out that distance, right? Make sure the distance feels comfortable. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with my hand up here. And as I swing it over, I'm gonna let my hand come all the way down to the knob. So my 2 hands will end up together, okay? So I'm gonna measure it out like that. That feels pretty comfortable. So I'll hold it back like this, swing it over, just like that. Did 2, now I'm gonna switch. Oh, as you can see the wood, it got a little bit, don't keep going. Just adjust it. Make sure it's nice and firm, and then keep going. I'm gonna switch.
Oh, I see why you wear eye protection. There's so much mulch just shooting everywhere.
Yeah, that's why we have the eye protection on. That's why I have my gloves on. It's because, you know, everything's gonna go flying everywhere, so we want to keep our eyes safe and want to keep our hands safe. All right, Gabe, do you have any questions about the axe before we move on?
No, I think I'm all good.
All right, well, then let's go to our next tool. All right, Gabe, our next tool we're gonna use is this nice hatchet. It's kind of like a mix between our axe, which we'll use for big jobs, and our saw, which we'll use for smaller jobs. So it's a nice perfect mix in between. So do you want to take a guess of a bit of the anatomy of this?
All right, so if I remember correctly, you have the toe,
Yep,
the blade,
yep,
the heel,
yep,
the head,
correct,
the handle,
yep.
and the knob.
Exactly right.
All right.
Since it's a bit smaller, our technique isn't gonna be any different. We'll just do one hand chopping like that, but the safety is all the same, keeping the edge away from yourself, using it with respect at all times, appropriate adult supervision. And do you wanna get started chopping on some wood?
Yeah, let's
All right. So like I said, it's like a mix, so I'm gonna get down on my knees, just like how I did with the saw. I'm gonna secure my my wood here. I'm gonna cut. I'm gonna cut it just like the axe in a V-shaped manner, and we'll get to it. So start chopping.
You know, Stefan, you chopping with all these tools, how do you keep them sharp? How do you keep them maintained?
That's a great question, Gabe. So as you said, all these tools, you know, over time they're gonna get blunt and they're gonna get twisted. So it's important that we always keep them clean and we keep them sharpened. So you got into my next point, which we'll go over, is we're gonna go over how to sharpen them properly.
Okay.
And we'll go over everything from our hatchet to the saw to the axe, and then even down to our pocket knives.
Sounds awesome.
All right, Gabe, now that we're out of the axe yard, we can finally take our eye protection off.
Thank the Lord.
You know, with the masks, they get nice and foggy, so
Nice and foggy.
it's nice to be out here. All right, so Gabe, we're gonna practice sharpening our pocket knife. So
Yeah.
I see you have your pocket knife there and a nice stone to sharpen it on. So Gabe, why don't you show me how you think you sharpen that?
Well, since you've taught me so much, I'll gladly teach you.
Excellent.
So what you do is, again, when you start using your pocket knife, including when you sharpen, you want to make sure it's closed until you use it. So you open your knife, and then you'll have a stone, and there'll be kind of an abrasive, kind of rough side to the stone. And then you'll take your pocket knife, and what you'll do is you'll press it down against the stone and gently let it just glide on the stone. Gently glide it. And it shouldn't take very long for this to become very sharp again. Just take your time making motions just like that. So small circular along the curvature of the knife, and it should be almost as good as new.
Awesome.
So tell me, is that pretty sharp to you?
That looks pretty sharp. Definitely gonna have to practice it on some sticks.
Yeah. Well, Stefan, since you taught me so much about chopping with axes, I'm going to show you how to maintain and sharpen your axes. Does that sound good to you?
I'm excited to learn.
All right. So what you're going to do, like last time when you were showing me the parts of the axe, you're going to have to sharpen the blade. Always the blade, nothing else. So what you do is you're going to take a metal file, and similar to how we kind of use the stone and the pocket knife and the motion we made, we go along the curvature of the blade. And it's very gentle motions against the blade. And it shouldn't take, this can take a little bit longer than the pocket knife, but it shouldn't take you too long to sharpen it.
So is there anything I should do before I start sharpening it? Should I clean it off, or should I,
If there's any noticeable dirt, I'd say start cleaning stuff off of it. If there's anything that'll hinder the file's work, then definitely start cleaning it off. Make sure when you step out of the axe art if somebody is still using it and chopping wood, and make sure that people aren't messing with your tools or anything you're working with.
It's a good thing we came over here to the maintenance area then.
It's perfect. And after a few tries, you're just going to switch sides of the blade, make sure it's nice and sharp. Again, follow that curvature and just keep going at it.
So it's important to keep it even, so make sure I don't over sharpen on one side.
Yeah. Over time, you'll start to see sometimes chips or sometimes misshapes within the blade itself if you look straight down at it. But with just regular care and balancing out the strokes of you sharpening with the file, should be perfectly good.
Awesome. Well, I think I know how to sharpen an axe now. Thank you for showing me.
No problem.
A saw like this, how do we... there's so many teeth to sharpen on here. I couldn't imagine doing every single one.
Okay, Stefan. One thing first is with a saw like this, like you said, there's too many teeth to sharpen. You have to just straight up replace the blade. You don't have to go with the file or anything like that. If anybody tells you that, they're out of their minds. You will be sitting here for a couple hours at least. But once you go to the store, majority of hardware stores and general stores will sell saw blades like this. Just know the size of your saw, and they should have one in stock for you.
And I see there's a nice little pin we can just pull out and just replace the blades
Just
super
pull
easily.
them out. Yep.
Well, that's pretty neat. And then how do we sharpen the hatchet? Is it anything like sharpening the axe?
It's exactly like an axe. In fact, why don't you go ahead and show me?
All right, let me give it a shot. I got some little, and then just.
Doing a great job. Just keep following the curvature of the axe and it should be sharp in no time.
All right, well thank you, Gabe. And I guess we'll do a little bit more work to sharpen these axes, but thanks for showing me.
No problem.
You're watching Camping Continues. We'll be right back after a word from today's sponsor.
Hi, I'm Alex Keenan. I'm the course director for Wood Badge this fall. And I just wanted to tell you about what a great opportunity Wood Badge is. It is the mountaintop leadership training for adults in Scouts BSA. There's 2 courses being offered this year. One harvest course, which will be offered in August and September, and a fall course, which will be offered in September and October. Each course is 5 days long, split over 2 different weekends. Every youth deserves a trained leader, so this is the perfect time for you to sign up for this leadership training. Because it is leadership training, many companies will also offer to help pay your tuition for the course, so check with your company. We also do offer camperships if the cost of the course is a little intimidating. We want to see you there. We want our youth to have trained adults, so what better opportunity than Wood Badge this year? You can sign up at ncacbsa.org/Wood Badge. And we'll look forward to seeing you this fall at a Wood Badge course.
Welcome back. Let's get back into the action with Camping Continues.
All right, we are down in the Camp Snyder woodshop to discuss its capabilities. Here with us is a staff member.
Good afternoon. My name's Mr. Gene, and I'm here to share some tips and a shop tour this afternoon.
So my first question is, this is a shop down at Camp Snyder, and I understand there's many things people from Scouts can do here. What are some of the things you've done or you feel like you could do here?
Well, since we put the shop together over the last couple of years, we've actually completed a variety of projects with Scouts of all ages, beginning with the Cub Scouts. We have smaller projects that they can start out with the basic skills and tools, and then we work our way through to the Boy Scouts, and we work on larger projects, and we have even completed a handful of Eagle projects in the shop so far.
Cool. So you talked about like Cub Scouts coming down here. What sort of unit would come down here, and how would they go about contacting you and getting someone in the workshop to work?
Some of the very first sessions that we conducted in the shop had to do with the Pinewood Derby car builds. We started out with those a couple of years ago, and so dens and packs may register through our website, and they can schedule times to come out, and then we, the volunteers, assign shop stewards to help each one of those groups.
What was the inspiration to build a wood shop here?
The inspiration actually was the vision of Michael Snowden, the previous camp director. He had a vision of using this space to put together a wood shop where we could bring young folks in and teach them the basic traditional woodworking skills, and from there build up to their interest and project levels as they desired. Since the shop build-out started approximately 3 years ago, volunteers such as myself have come out and spent a number of days putting all of this together, collecting the tools, the majority of which have been donated, and in some cases, which I'll show you in a bit, we have actually restored these tools to safe working order.
Real quick, like what sort of tools would we have in here? Like what could the wood shop theoretically do? Like a quick summary.
We can do just about any project that you could conceive across the Scouting program. As I mentioned, beginning with the Pinewood Derby cars, and then over on one of our other sections that I'll show you, we have the birdhouses, the toolboxes. We also have smaller items that, say, our tiger cubs could do, such as tic-tac-toe boards. And then we have larger versions of the birdhouses, the toolboxes. A recent addition to those are butterfly houses and bat houses, which are pretty cool. And then when it comes to the Eagle projects, we have built benches, library sharing boxes, the take a book, lend a book type of box, and then there have been other projects as well. There again, the shop stewards here are the ones who actually bring the folks in and coach them according to their skill level and help them learn and appreciate the use of our tools and of course our safety procedures in the shop.
I'm really interested to see where you make the Pinewood Derby cars.
Sure. So in this area here, you see that we have a variety of what we call benchtop machine tools, primarily sanders, a cutoff miter saw. We also have a drill press back here and a jigsaw behind me. So when the younger folks come in to do their Pinewood Derby car projects, the first thing that we do, of course, is after introducing them to the shop safety and the general layout, we talk with them about the design that they want to use if they don't already have one, or if they do, we'll help them perhaps make some adjustments and tweaks. And then we will work with the hand tools and sometimes the machine tools to cut their projects out and then bring them over here. And these tools in particular are very helpful in the final shaping. We don't actually fully complete the Pinewood Derby cars here. Instead, we get them to a point where they can take them home and do the final finishing and apply the decals and the like. Okay, so here, this particular wall, as you can see, houses many of our hand tools within the shop. So after checking in, getting your safety goggles, your safety briefing, oftentimes this is the first place that we stop to take a look at what's available in the shop to help you with your project. As you can see, things are neatly organized. Again, a tribute to the volunteers who put the time together to organize these in a manner that they're easily accessible. We can account for tools at the end of the day to ensure everything's in place, and they're readily available. One key to this shop, not just here but elsewhere, is that having an organized and clean shop is one of the first steps to a successful project. Okay, so here in this corner, we actually have a couple of wood lathes. And the thing I'd like to point out here is that this particular lathe is one that we can use to do a variety of small projects, such as pens, pencils, or bottle stopper types of things. We can also do small bowls. There are any number of projects that you can do with a wood lathe. And some of us who enjoy spending a lot of time with that are eager to share the different projects and excitement with the young folks who are interested in that. Off behind you here, you can see we have a sharpening station for our wood turning tools. And again, safety measure, we always wear our face shields whenever the wood lathe is in operation. We have chisels stored over here, and then we also have a couple of other accessories to make for a full experience. One thing that in particular that I would like to point out is we have here one of the first multi-machines that came into existence probably 70 or 80 years ago. This is one of the original Shopsmith machines, and our volunteer Mr. Dan actually took this completely apart and fully restored it, and did such a good job on it that the rest of us just come in and look at it, and we actually rarely use it, but is fully functional and operational. And it too is an example of a machine that was donated to us that we were able to rebuild and use, hopefully for a few more years, to teach folks the craft of woodworking.
Thank you so much for giving us the tour of the shop. It was a really interesting experience.
You're very welcome, Ryan. I'm glad that you and the team were able to visit with us today, and please come out and see us again sometime. Spend some time in the wood shop. As a token of our appreciation for you and the team coming to visit us, I actually brought you something here, knowing that you're always the guy looking for the proper attire for scouting activities. So I'd like to present you with your own flannel shirt so that you'll be in the proper uniform when you next come out to see us.
Thank you so much.
Have a great
day. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You as well.
All right.
Hey Scouts and Scouters! For this season of Camping Continues, we want to bring you onto the cast and crew, and that's in the form of the End of Show Challenge. Each week, at the end of the episode, we're going to give you an activity that you can do in the next week that relates to what happened in the episode. This week, for woodworking, we want you to send us your best woodworking or whittling project. And you want to send it to campingcontinues@whippit470.org or tag us on social media, and you'll get a chance to be featured on the next episode of Camping Continues. Until then, I'm Matthew Rustin. Have a good night.
Thanks for joining us this evening on Camping Continues. Now, let's take it over to our event advisor, Mr. Charlie Brown.
You know, during this project, I turned 28. And now it's given me a few gray hairs on my head, and scouting has always been a labor of love for me. Just before we started doing this project, I definitely felt the burnout. I felt tired, I felt old, and I was wondering why I put up with this. Calling friends saying I'm ready to retire from scouting. Right as we kicked off this project, after 11 months of scouting a wood badge course, I was part of finally happened after its COVID delay. It felt so right to put on that khaki uniform and wear those pressed olive green pants again. And suddenly, at the second campfire of weekend one, I was carrying on with all the scout spirit that you can't bring to life on a Zoom call. Campfires are those iconic moments that are burned into my memory. I felt revived. The reminder why this matters and why I do this. And then we came back and filmed season 1, and I got to watch these youth bring that same spirit to life. When I thought I was done and I was ready, they were ready to move on to next season, I was like, are you sure? I didn't sign up for that. But the passion was there. and you can't help but find a way to have the youth back. That's our promise that we will be here for you, the NCAC family, and the greater scouting community until they kick us off the air, or my sincere hope is till we have made it through COVID. Remember, we can make scouting happen safely these days. Please go on to our COVID-19 guidelines as a guide and help scouting come to life for our youth. We are here and happy to help you. We can all feel old and tired from time to time, and scouting needs us all right now to fulfill its mission. And don't forget, camping continues, scouting continues, and I'll see you down the trail. Good night.
This has been an Amangamek-Wipit Lodge production done in partnership with the National Capital Area Council.